Hey, very good morning to all our viewers. Welcome to Hot Stocks right here on 89, the Mumbai News Center. I'm Tanveer here.
And I'm Ajay Sharma.
You know, Ajay, we just need to interrupt the Supreme Court and they have rejected the probe against Chidambaram in the 2G case. We try and get you more details on this story, but the update was that today there was supposed to be more clarification coming in on Mr. P. Chidambaram's role in the 2G scam. Remember, there were allegations made earlier on about how he was also one of the key participants. However, the Supreme Court, and this is, remember, the apex body, has rejected the probe against Mr. Chidambaram in the 2G case. In just moments from now, we will start getting more updates on this story. I think Devdatta joins us with a quick check. Devdatta, yeah, can you give us the entire verdict? We just have one piece of news, which is that the Supreme Court has rejected the probe against Mr. Chidambaram in the 2G case. What do you have for us? Could you give out the entire verdict? Devdatta, can you give us the entire verdict?
Yeah. The verdict was read out, but however, it is unclear the reasons. The only line that was read out is that the petitions are being dismissed and he cannot be held guilty or he cannot be made a co-accused in the matter. We are yet to get the full copy of the verdict, but at the same time, it is clear that the Supreme Court has dismissed both petitions of both Subramanian Swamy and Prashant Bhushan against Chidambaram to make him a co-accused in the 2G spectrum case. Therefore, that means that Chidambaram goes scot-free. This had a huge implication if he were to be made into a co-accused, but at the same time, the Supreme Court has decided to let him go free. But we'll get back to you with more details as it emerges.
Have you been able to get any initial reactions, Devdatta? I know I'm putting you in the spot, but have you been able to get reactions from the lawyers of both parties?
The hearing is still on. In fact, the judgment on the extension of the 2G deadline of the 2G auction is still on. So we'll have to get back to you on that as soon as that judgment is out.
Yeah, Devdatta, this is a very big positive for the government also, which has been facing a lot of flack in the parliament, and it is getting adjourned every now and then. But this one seemed to be a very big positive. Now that Mr. Chidambaram is also taken over as the finance minister of the country, you think that he will be able to progress with the work at hand? A lot of reform work was also under question because this important verdict was lined up today.
Absolutely. It's a huge shot in the arm for Mr. Chidambaram. There were big implications if he were to be held guilty. As I had said, he is the current finance minister and he was the then finance minister when the decisions of the 2G spectrum auction were taken, for which A. Raja has been made the key accused. But at the same time, the fact that the Supreme Court has dismissed and very clearly saying that he cannot be held a co-accused, while the verdict reasons are yet to be out in details, the fact that the Supreme Court has unanimously dismissed the entire matter and any problem and any petitions that could have come against him, it's a huge shot in the arm. It will definitely be a big bonus for the government, which is already under fire for the Colgate scam currently. So definitely a huge bonus for the government and a huge sigh of relief for the UPA government as of now.
That's correct. Actually, just to remind our viewers that on April 24th, the court had reserved its order on whether to issue a notice to Finance Minister Chidambaram on the plea filed by Janata Party President Subramanian Swamy or not. And now the actual verdict has out that they haven't really found any material evidence to make Mr. Chidambaram co-accused in the 2G scam. Market also in the meanwhile has actually given a thumbs up because this was a big issue on the mind on the market today. A lot of market participants were saying that it will remain an overhang and any negative surprise or negative verdict could have put further pressure on the market. But right, of course, it's a big positive coming in for the government that Supreme Court has not found any material evidence against Mr. Chidambaram in the 2G case.
Devdatta, have you, I mean, I know right now the proceedings are still on, but were you able to get, you know, a soundbite from Mr. Subramanian Swamy before the proceedings began on what he was expecting and, you know, how he perhaps would take to this verdict?
Subramanian Swamy, for one, did expect Mr. Chidambaram to be made into a co-accused, but then again, we all know that it has huge implications. The fact that the Supreme Court has let him go is a huge breather.
All right, Devdatta, we'll just, you know, come back to you in just a second. Majid Memon joins us now for, you know, his reactions to this story. Mr. Memon, how would you react to this piece of news?
Well, when Mr. Swamy approached the trial court and made elaborate, detailed submissions on the facts and the material that was available with him, the trial court did give a speaking order which appears to have been accepted by the Supreme Court. Now, it appears that in the approach of Mr. Swamy, well, who wants to be a kind of a whistleblower and to, fight corruption, but then in his endeavor against Chidambaram was more or less appearing to be politically motivated and or with some kind of personal vendetta. And on the facts, the Supreme Court concurred with what the trial court has said, and therefore the petition stands dismissed.
So what options does it leave with the Janata Party leader, Mr. Subramanian Swamy, now? Because earlier on he's been, been challenging the orders. Earlier, the CBI judge O.P. Saini's order was also challenged by him. So what are the options left in front of him?
No, as far as this course is open, I think it is now closed once and for all, because he can't go anywhere beyond Supreme Court now. On the same facts and same circumstances or the same issues, he has knocked the door of the highest judicial forum after showing his dissatisfaction on what the learned trial court had done below. But then now, once the apex court has even declined to entertain petition or issue even preliminary notice, I think the chapter stands closed as far as allegation against Mr. Chidambaram is concerned.
This must be a big relief for the government, as we've been talking about it, and as you pointed out, you expected this decision to turn out the way it did. Mr. Menon?
Pardon? I didn't get you. Yes?
I was just asking you that this must be a big relief for all those concerned, and, especially, from Mr. Chidambaram's camp for having got a clean chit from the apex body.
No, as it is, today there is so much of political turmoil with regard to Colgate and other CAG issues, etc., etc. It is certainly a breather and some kind of a relief for the UPA and more particularly for the Congress. That is true.
Right, Mr. Menon, just stay on with us. It's important that you be with us online as Mr. Subramanian Swamy also joins in with his reaction to this piece of news. Mr. Swamy, your reaction really to Mr. Chidambaram getting a clean check from the Supreme Court. Mr. Swamy, can you hear us?
Hello.
Mr. Swamy, I was just asking you about your reaction to this decision by the Supreme Court.
I'm sorry, I have no idea what's happened.
Well, Mr. Swamy, we have just learnt that the Supreme Court has rejected the probe against Mr. Chidambaram in the 2G case. No material evidence against Mr. Chidambaram has been found, is what the apex court has said. How would you react to this piece of news? All right, we'll just go across to Mr. Swamy in just a bit, but right now joining us is Mr. Gopal Jain, who's a Supreme Court lawyer. Mr. Jain, your reaction to this piece of news?
All right, seems like Mr. Jain is also not there, but Mr. Majid is still online with us. All right, we'll come to that, but just to recap the big news which has come right now, the Supreme Court has not found any material evidence against Chidambaram's role in the 2G case, and they have rejected Subramanian Swamy's plea in order to make Mr. Chidambaram a co-accused in this case. Markets also in the meanwhile has actually recovered some amount of ground in the past 10 minutes, actually 12 to 13 points recovery in the Nifty alone.
I'll just take a moment there. Mr. N. Ram, who's the former editor-in-chief of The Hindu, joins in as well for his perspective on this piece of news. It's important, Mr. Ram, I mean, what would your reaction be to this development, as it really comes as a big relief for Mr. Chidambaram and the government?
Yes, very major political relief for Finance Minister Chidambaram and the government, and also I would add the Prime Minister, because the next stop would be the Prime Minister, wouldn't it? Because he was also involved in the decision. So the issue is whether there was a criminality or alleged criminality behind the decision, and the court has provided major relief to Chidambaram and the government, and indirectly the Prime Minister.
Mr. Ram, I think assuming that this big decision would give a lot of confidence to Mr. Chidambaram from here on to tackle the the big issues at hand, How do you think they will actually address the big reform issues and a lot of other controversial issues which have not been addressed correctly in the parliament, which is in its own way facing a lot of flack from the opposition?
I don't think you can read too much into this because it's by no means a clean sheet in that sense. They're all there. We don't know what the order is. I haven't read it. You haven't read it. We only know we have broad information on it. And what it seems to me is the court has seen no reason to intervene at this stage in the investigation and trial. Then, this would have been investigation. There would be trial. There's a trial. So in the investigation and prosecution of the matter. So that's all that is said. They are not convinced that by the material provided to them, it appears that they need to intervene. Normally, courts do not intervene at the stage of investigation. The higher courts do not intervene at the stage of investigation, although there are exceptions. And in this case, that is all that has been established. I wouldn't draw too many conclusions from that because there's still a political crisis on.
Right.
There's a JPC process on, and knowing Dr. Swamy in particular, I think he'll come back into it and try to pile on into.
Decisions of Mr. Chidambaram caused a national loss, which I proved. In fact, the Supreme Court itself had upheld my petition dismissing the cancelling the license.
But court now says
now the court is talking about some conspiracy. There is not a whiff in my petition where I have argued the conspiracy angle.
So you mean to say court went beyond it?
I think this is a very bad judgment. I will get the judgment copy and seek a review. And because when I was arguing in the middle, I was stopped and said, okay. Then I said, but I have not cited the judgments. They said, you give us in written. I gave it in writing. So therefore, this judgment, in my opinion, is based on something I did not argue.
So it means Chidambaram is completely clear. There is no legal hurdle for him.
No. There is still Aircel Maxis matter, which is to be.
Dr. Swamy, लेकिन अगर आज के जजमेंट को माने तो इसका ये मतलब है कि अब आगे से जो 2G के मामले चल रहे हैं उसमें चिदम्बरम आरोपी नहीं बनाए जाएंगे?
नहीं, वो तो अभी मैं रिव्यू मांगूंगा, क्योंकि उन्होंने जो जजमेंट जो पढ़ा है, मैं नहीं जानता हूँ बाकी में कहाँ है, जिसमें पढ़ा है वो कहते हैं कि षड्यंत्र का मैंने कोई सबूत नहीं दिया। मैंने कहाँ आर्ग्यू किया षड्यंत्र? मैंने कहा राष्ट्र का नुकसान हुआ और उस नुकसान सिद्ध हो गया, क्योंकि इस सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने लाइसेंसिंग को कैंसिल कर दी थी। तो सेक्शन 13(1)(d) पार्ट 3 में ये षड्यंत्र, ये आपराधिक मंशा, ये सारी बातें है ही नहीं।
So you mean to say the judgment which is not based on your argument?
It is not based on my prayer or on my arguments.
But they say that whatever the material you produce, that doesn't.
That is not a
criminal intent.
There is a criminal intent. I never produced any material because I don't need it. There is a High Court judgment division says that as far as section 13(1)(d) part 3 is concerned, you don't have to prove criminal intent. You only have to show national law.
Can we go into the review petition?
I will file a review petition after reading the order.
Thank you.
All right, I will file a review petition is what Mr. Subramaniam Swamy is saying. Let's go across to Supriya Srinath, who's been tracking the story from the word go and now joins in with more perspective. Put this news in context where, Mr. Chidambaram is right now, his position and the government's stand on this whole issue. And, what Mr. Subramaniam Swamy is saying, Supriya, he's still saying that, there is some more left to this battle.
There is a lot more left to this battle as far as Subramaniam Swamy is concerned, but remember, Tanveer, this is the second such judgment on Chidambaram's role in the entire 2G mess. First, the trial court dismisses, and then, of course, the Supreme Court dismissing Subramaniam Swamy's plea to make Chidambaram a co-accused. He is, of course, being defensive. He's talking about a review. He may well ask for one, but the fact is this is the biggest relief that P. Chidambaram was perhaps seeking and was perhaps looking for. My own sense is that with this relief coming in on his way, he will perhaps emerge a much, much stronger, a much taller leader within the UPA. This was was a big burden on his shoulders, one that the Supreme Court has really done away with. This was a two-judge bench. It isn't a singular decision. This was a two-judge bench. Within minutes of meeting at 10:30, they decided unanimously that there is really no case against the finance minister, and also in his role as the finance minister way back then when A. Raja was the telecom minister, and this entire conspiracy that Subramanian Swamy is talking about. He, of course, wants to pull the whole Aircel Maxis deal and his role, again, his son's role in this. But the fact is that he was seeking relief in a matter like this, in his role in the entire 2G mess, and he's got the biggest relief possible. So one does get a sense that in New Delhi, he will appear as a much taller, a much stronger leader, even within the UPA.
Fair enough. Supriya, what happens to the entire 2G auction process then? You know, there was a plea seeking extension in deadline there. Do you have more clarification on that?
No, I think the Supreme Court has deferred the decision on extension of deadline. Remember, the first extension deadline that they had decided was the 31st of August. The government approached the Supreme Court to extend the deadline by 3 months. I think that decision has been deferred. The big decision today really is that P. Chidambaram, according to the Supreme Court, had no role in the 2G spectrum scam, and they have dismissed Subramanian Swamy's plea to probe his role and also to make him a co-accused with Andimuthu Raja. Remember, this matter did get expedited because Subramanian Swamy thought that because of the whole defamation suit case that Chidambaram and his son have filed through a Singapore-based firm, his own battle against Chidambaram would have gotten diluted. Subramanian Swamy, of course, putting on record that he will be asking for a review of this case, but like I keep saying, and even at the cost of sounding repetitive, this is the second such judgment that has come on this matter. The first came from the trial court, the second from the Supreme Court. I don't think there's much hope that Subramanian Swamy should be seeking, at least at this stage, as far as Chidambaram's role is concerned.
All right, Supriya, we leave it at that. Thanks very much for putting this news piece in context. Just for viewers joining us right now, I'll just recap the story briefly for you. The Supreme Court was to decide on Mr. Chidambaram's, the petition that was filed by Mr. S. Swamy against Mr. Chidambaram, accusing him as a co-accused in the 2G spectrum scam. The Supreme Court has rejected the probe against Mr. Chidambaram and has said that they have found no material evidence against Mr. Chidambaram's role in the 2G case. They've also said that there is no evidence to show that Mr. Chidambaram at that time abused his position. That's just the story that's come in, and it's a bit of a relief for the government and from a market standpoint as well. This was a bit of an overhang in today's session. So the clarification coming in and this rejection really acts as a bit of a booster for market sentiment too. We'll take a short break on that note. When we come back, discuss specific movers in today's market.